When, as a business leader and owner, you do not get the onboarding right, disengagement starts straight away. I have so many business leaders and owners that talk about the fact that they hired somebody and then they did not work out within the probation period. Some businesses have a 3-month probation, some have 6 months. I always say that the probation period is so critical to ensuring that the person is a right fit. That is really important from the person that you've hired. But as a business leader and owner, we also want to make sure that the onboarding part is done well, because without it, things don't actually work very well. So I want to talk a bit about why does onboarding go wrong, and what are some of the ways that we can really improve the way that our onboarding process works. For many business leaders and owners, people have become a really big issue, finding the right people and retaining the key talent that we have. There are more and more competitors. People are being offered some crazy, ridiculous salaries these days to be able to jump to the opposition or to completely change the industry that they're in. One of the reasons that I wrote the book, Getting Your People to Step Up, was specifically also to look at topics like onboarding and ensuring that we have the right people and we do the right things. So the onus on getting the onboarding right is really with the business leader and owner. The onus of making sure that the performance is there and making sure this person's right is on the person or the employee that we've just hired. And why does onboarding go wrong? Well, so many variety of reasons, but a lot of it is because we've spent so much time hiring the person, and particularly if you're very short-staffed, which so many of the clients that I work with at the moment, irrespective of the size of their business, irrespective of the industry, irrespective whether they're private or public, a lot of them are having troubles attracting and retaining key talent. And so we spend so much of our energy finding the right person, and we go, phew, that person's now been hired. We pass them on to some of the meetings that they'll do as part of their onboarding process, and we get really busy back to doing what we've done because this recruitment process has taken us so long. Sometimes we just don't have anybody that spends some time creating an onboard pack, which I'm about to speak about. And the other reasons that it happens is that we create something and then we just have people in our team that don't follow it. We don't hold them accountable, and then that causes issues as well. So let's talk about what are some of the ways that we can actually do onboarding really well and how we can actually improve that as well. Sorry, Leslie, can you hear the dog barking?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Are you able to cut and edit that part out?
Yep. But this that thing that you said before vet, if you can repeat vet, or yeah, I think I'll just cut that and then you will start. Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely.
okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. So I want to go through a number of ways that we can actually improve this. Let's firstly talk about the fact that onboarding cannot be unstructured. We cannot leave it hoping that people that are recruited lots of things and lots of people in the past is going to work the same. It doesn't work that way. You actually need to have a structured approach. You also want to make sure that everybody is following that and anything up to date is been happening. Some of the best structured onboarding programs I've seen is rather than copy and paste all of the things which are really important as part of that structure. For example, you would want to include some of your key policies in there, your procedures, your culture, your values, your mission statement. You can actually link them. You can have hyperlinks in a particular document that go in so that as you update your website or certain documents get updated, that document is always linked in. But you want to make sure that there is very clear steps and timelines. The best ones that I see go for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years for those people listening. The 2 years is where how many check-ins we're going to be doing over that 2 years, which is usually every 6 months, if not more frequent. So that's year 1 to year 2. And it actually tells you as part of that onboarding, what are some of the things that we're going to be discussing? And at that point, after a year or 2 years, when you're way past the probation period, we're discussing things like what projects you're working on, what your KPIs are for the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months, what does your performance look like, what level of skill are you at, et cetera, et cetera. But the first 12 months, the first 3 months is broken in weeks. So you've actually got 12 columns on a document that actually talk about what are we doing week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through to week 12. So that first 90 days, that first quarter of that person starting is absolutely critical. And in that, you would have what meetings that they would be having, and they don't need to be a complex process. They might actually just have dot points. You might have 3 key dot points in week 1 or 3 key dot points in. So just think about mapping out the key people that they need to deal with and what they need to be able to create. And then everybody's got a copy of that. The second thing I want to do is I actually want to go a step further back and look at what it looks like to have pre-boarding communication. Pre-boarding communication is what happens before that official person starts on their first day. So again, the structure of this is really important. So if you've got 1 to 12 weeks, imagine what it's looking like -4. So that from the time that they've actually got the role, and again, this can be automated and structured. So you can have an automated system where they will receive certain emails. When a new employee is entered, they can just basically get that on certain frequencies. The personalized, the pre-boarding communication will have things like welcome to the family or welcome to the organization. It might then just have a link in terms of your website. It might have also some necessary paperwork to complete. For example, we might need their personal information or their tax information or their superannuation, etc. And what we do is we send them that as an automated thing. We're not copying and pasting and creating it every time. You can have that created as a system, even in a small to medium-sized business, which I've run now for over 20 years in a variety of businesses. You just have that automated. You add the email address of your new employee, even their personal one, and that pre-boarding communication goes out to them. We've got all of that information for them to do that, and they feel super organized when they actually come in and join that particular business. In that personalized onboarding, it's really important. For example, you might have a generic template for that first 3 months, those first 90 days of that personalized onboarding plan. And one of the things you could do is you could have a column for the person or the initials. So you might say, meet with each of the key team members, and then you've got the team name in there. So your dot points might be fairly generic depending on how much recruitment you're doing, but you're just adding in some of the personal details or their manager or their supervisor, or if they're reporting directly to you, how often you're catching up with them against each of the dot points. And when you think about it, if there's 36 dot points, for example, there's 12 weeks, 3 dot points for each week. It's not a lot of time that it would take to go, okay, that's that person there, or that's their initial, or that's there. It's probably 15 to 30 minutes of work if you've got that particular onboarding plan done, which you can, again, once it's done, rinse and repeat. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is having a buddy. I talk about this in my book, Getting Your People to Step Up, that it is so important to have a buddy, a friend, a mentor in the group. So one of the things that works really well in so many organizations is that for that first 12 weeks particularly, have them pair up with a buddy. Now that buddy might be able to answer some questions or even show them where the canteen is, show them how to log in, show them and answer any of those basic questions. If they need anything specific, they can always go to their manager or depending on who they're reporting to. But one of the things that you want them to do is help you navigate the business. Now, for example, I know when my son started a new school last year, they assigned him a buddy for the first 90 days, funnily enough. We didn't have to, from a business model perspective, it was the same thing. So he had a mentoring group that he joins every morning, and he sees the same boys at the school every morning for the mentoring group, which is really fascinating, right? And the other thing was that he had a buddy assigned. So that buddy would make sure that he went on the oval, introduced them to a couple of other boys, literally the same thing that we would be doing as adults in our businesses as well. That buddy part in those first 12 weeks, which might not be a lot of work for the buddy, really helps the transition of that new person coming into your business. It also starts to help them with this sense of belonging. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion and belonging, this part of belonging really helps with the fact that you've got a buddy, and then you start to go, wow, I belong in this organization. I'm being welcomed in. I've got somebody there. He or she may not be able to answer all my questions, but I've got them as a reference point for what I need to do. The next part of your onboarding is to really look at what are the training sessions that they need. For example, they might need some training specifically around workshops or role playing or certain activities. And again, letting them know as part of that first day, look, these are some of the things that we're planning. This is what we're planning on doing for the first 12 weeks. This is what we do for the next 12 weeks. We do a check-in every 6 months or every quarter. And then by that stage, you've passed your probation. And what we want to do is ensure that you're asking a lot of those things and a lot of questions around that. The other thing to do when you're doing an onboarding plan, an onboarding kit, as many people talk it, or onboarding playbook, whatever words you want to use, just make sure there's that consistency in your business as a business leader and owner, is obviously making sure that the job expectations are clear. Now, you might say, yes, but we had a position description. The person applied for that job. We interviewed a number of candidates and this person's there. Of course, they would know their position description. Yes, but that's often quite a few weeks, in some cases, quite a few months before that. So one of the things you would do as part of that kit is you would have your position description in that kit. And in that, you would then go through as their manager or their leader, you would go through with them what they're expected to do, how their role fits into the broader goals. You would work out what those initial check-ins are and go through that with them and have them diarised, have your assistant or yourself, depending on the size of your business, send them that and they've got them in their diary for the next 2 years. That's belonging, that's organisation. That's when people go, wow, these people are super organised. I now need to be super organised. If this is my onboarding, let's go. And I want to be able to do that too. So just making sure that those clear job expectations, you go through with them, link them into your core values, link them into how they fit into the broader strategic plan, and take your time for part of that onboarding and don't rush it. The other thing is they probably looked at your website or looked at what you shared with them as part of the values and your culture that you have in your business. Whether that's 5 people or 5,000 people, your business has its own values and culture. And again, they might have looked through that briefly, but what you want to do as a business leader and business owner is spend quite a bit of time going through the culture and values. You want to not only go through with them, you want to make sure that they're meeting key team people, they're giving them some insights into the culture, how they actually utilize it. It's so important that they do that. You give them examples, you let them know what meetings they'll be expected to think about examples of your culture. And if you don't have that, that's a separate action point to your onboarding. But if you have that, you want to build that into your onboarding conversations and make sure this is how you live and breathe your culture and your values in your business. You also want them to be able to have some necessary resources. So for example, they might need some equipment, which they usually do, whether it's phone, laptops, etc. And you want to link them into IT or HR or let them know what some of those resources are with some numbers. And again, that would be part of your onboarding kit, which would be really important as well. You also want to get their feedback. And in the first few weeks, you want to almost get their feedback weekly, whether it's ideally a face-to-face meeting, 15, 20 minutes or half an hour at the most, whether it's a phone call, you want to be able to say, hey, how's that going? Have you got everything that you need? Is the onboarding plan working? Is there anything that we need to be able to do more? And you want to make sure that you've got their input and to be able to make that work. And the last thing that I wanted to speak about, even though there's many other elements of onboarding, is just making sure that they've got, for particularly those first 12 weeks, they've got great check-ins with their managers, perhaps also having a manager that's checking in on the buddy that they've been assigned to, making sure that they're there. Is there anything that the buddy hasn't passed on? And just making sure that you've got some of those strategies in place. It sounds like a lot, but what I've talked about here is a whole heap of things in a kit or a playbook or your onboarding document. You basically got that populated, you've got the links going into different things. You take your time going through that, you present it. I love when I've joined an organization where I've seen some of my clients have that it's almost like, when I often meet people from Japan, they present their business card as they're giving you a gift. They present it to you and they bow. It's so beautiful. I love that element of that culture. And so isn't it beautiful that if you've got a new person that's now joined, we almost give them an onboarding kit, whether it's printed or whether we say, look, we just want to really welcome you, and what we've done is created this kit for you that's really going to help you. It's created for everybody, but really personalize it, make them feel belong, make them feel that they can come on board, and then they are highly, highly engaged. When you do this piece of work, the impact that it will have on your engagement upfront for your employee is so, so important. Disengagement starts very early if we don't get the onboarding right. If you would like any templates of onboarding, please shout out. My website is askshivani.com. Go to the contacts page, ask us for some of the resources that we have, or have a look at our website and see if you can find some resources that will help you get your onboarding right and get your people to step up, get them to step into your business and make the difference that you want. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, it's so hard to get great people and it's getting even harder to retain them. So let's do everything in our power as business leaders and owners to make sure we do what we do. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Shivani Gupta and you've been listening to the Grow Your Business podcast. I hope you got one idea that you can think about or perhaps even implement straight away in your business. Thank you for listening. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn under Ask Shivani. Remember, I call it Ask Shivani, so please send me your questions that I can address in this podcast for you. And I would also so appreciate if you went to the Apple Podcast to rate and review this podcast.